welcome. Good morning and welcome to our second video, our second live event. Today we're going to talk about charge controllers and batteries. I realize this event was scheduled to start at 10 a.m. It is currently 9:58, so I'll make some small talk until people join the broadcast. We did the last video and some observations were made. One, it was way too long at 19 minutes. And two, my voice was not loud enough. People were having to turn up their sound to hear what I said. So I am going to speak a little louder and a little slower. Okay, hopefully that would make it come through on your audio devices much better than it did the last time. So the two items we're going to cover today are: one, charge controllers, and two, batteries. Now the question is, what is a charge controller and why do I need one, or why should I care to have one? Well, let me start by showing you a picture of what a charge controller looks like, and then I can explain to you why you need one. So bear with me for a second. Let me put up a picture of a charge controller so you see what it is it does. Bear with me. Let's hope I have this right. Okay, I don't have this right, so let's do this again. Screen share. Bear with me, I'll figure this out. Okay, I played with it earlier today and I am still playing with it now. So bear with me, let me figure it out. And let's hope this is what I did. So bear with me real quick. Screen share. Let's do this again. See, okay, there we go. So here is what a charge controller looks like. There are two of them. The black one is an Outback type charge controller manufactured by a company called Fang Person out of China. It actually is the Outback product, and I believe they're both made in the same factory. And the second one is a 3 kilowatt inverter made for us by a company in Taiwan. Now you've seen what they look like. I'm going to explain to you what a charge controller does. So a charge controller basically does what the name states that it does. It controls the charge that goes into your batteries. So why is it critical that the charge that goes into your battery is controlled? Well, think about it this way. Your panels produce a certain amount of electricity. They could produce anywhere between 12 volts, depending on how it's wired, all the way to 100 volts. Now, your battery voltage is either 12, 24, or 48 volts. So how do you prevent your panels from overcharging your batteries and potentially destroying them? That is where a charge controller comes in. So your charge controller manages what goes into your batteries. So that answers that first part. Let's go back to me. So now we have told you what a charge controller is. I've shown you a picture and told you what it does. Now, what types of charge controllers do you have? Well, you have a PWM, pulse width modulation, which is very inexpensive. It basically acts as a switch with a little bit of intelligence built into it. So what do I mean it acts as a switch? Well, it opens, allows voltage or amperage to go into your battery depending on what's being produced by your panels. And then when it's full, it closes that switch. Okay, so it has a little bit of intelligence in that it can vary a little bit of what it is that comes in, but it does not change the composition of what comes in. So if you have low voltage on your battery, that's basically, it determines what voltage is going to come from your panels, and that's basically what you'll get. The other is a multiple power point tracking, which is MPPT. It costs much more, as much as 3 to 4 times more than a PWM. And why would you buy something that costs so much more? Well, it comes with a whole lot more intelligence, and it has a computer algorithm. And what it does is it tracks each panel and takes the maximum from each panel and puts it into your batteries. So an example, you have a 130-watt panel, and that 130-watt panel is rated at 7.5 amps. So the difference, so to calculate what the wattage is, you multiply your voltage by your amps. Now, if you have a discharged battery, you're going to multiply the voltage of the discharged battery by the amps, and guess what? Your battery is producing less than, your panels are producing less than 130 watts because you're using a lower base, which is the voltage, the state of charge of your battery, and multiplying by the amps that's being produced by your panels. So what a multiple power point tracker is able to do is it can increase that voltage. It can increase that voltage and multiply by the amps to get you the full 130 watts. So using the math, if your battery was at 10, and it's not going to be exact, if it was at 10 volts and your amperage is 7.5, then on an MPPT, you're only producing 75 watts. Whereas on your PWM, you're only producing 75 watts. On your MPPT, you'll be producing much more. So what the MPPT will do is it will bring it up to 12 volts, it could bring it up to 13 volts or 14 volts, and you multiply that by the amps, and that number is substantially higher. It could be as much as 30% higher. So that's the reason why you do that. So now, is it important that I buy an expensive or a very good charge controller? The answer is actually yes. And why do I say yes? Well, think about what it costs you to purchase your batteries. The battery bank is the second most expensive, probably sometimes the most expensive component on an off-grid installation. So if you destroy those batteries, you spend quite a lot of money, and you've wasted that money, and you have to go back again and purchase new batteries because you're not charging them properly. So getting a very good quality charge controller minimizes the possibility of you, one, destroying the batteries by either overcharging them or undercharging them. And two, the more expensive ones have additional bells and whistles that you could run to keep your battery going for much longer. So hopefully that answers it on charge controllers. Now, the other question we asked was also regarding batteries. One of our potential clients, actually he's a client because he already purchased, asked us to tell him more about batteries. Well, a battery is a device that stores energy for later use. What type of batteries are there out there? Well, you have what you call your flooded batteries, and then you have what in Nigeria are referred to as dry cell batteries. There is no such thing as a dry battery. The battery does have electrolyte. It just depends on how that electrolyte is stored within the battery. So in the liquid one, it's stored in the form of a liquid, which if you tilt the battery upside down, the liquid comes out, which is your flooded battery. On your dry cell batteries, the electrolyte is stored in two ways. One, either as a gel in your gel cells, or as they call it AGM, absorbed glass material. So what it is the electrolyte is wrapped in fiberglass, and then that fiberglass is wrapped around the lead plates. So which is the best? Everybody asks. Well, for what we do, where we discharge, we continually discharge and recharge the batteries. Our preference are the flooded batteries. The AGMs have come quite a long way, and they are beginning to get competitive in terms of longevity with the flooded batteries. But considering the market that we do business in, Nigeria, we suggest the flooded batteries, and I'll tell you why. One, um, the reason batteries fail are two reasons why batteries fail. One, you don't properly charge them, which means they're constantly undercharged. Or two, you overcharge them. So these are two things that kill batteries. So when you charge a battery, there's a table supplied by the battery manufacturer that tells you the maximum amount of voltage you can charge the battery to. So on 12-volt batteries, it's actually 14, about a little maximum is about 14 volts. And then they call the float rate, which is the rate at which you use the battery, somewhere about 13 point something volts, 13.1, 13.2 volts, depending on the manufacturer. Most people get their batteries to 12 volts and they assume the battery is properly charged. That is not true. 12 volts is a battery that's at about 25% state of charge. So you have another 75% to add to that battery. So the question is, why do we prefer flooded to dry cells? So here we go. So I just gave you a little bit of history as to where the battery needs to be. Well, as the batteries go through their charge and discharge cycles, you have sediments, which we call sulfates, that fall to the bottom of the plates, the battery plates. Your battery is made up of lead plates. And those sediments eventually, as they accumulate at the bottom of your batteries, they prevent the battery from getting properly charged. Now, on your gel or your AGM, you could run what is known as an equalization charge. And what it does is, as you go through this process, you find out that some cells don't maintain the same voltage as others. So you temporarily overcharge them, but for a very short period of time. And that's what an equalization charge does, to correct the problem that occurs from frequent undercharging or going through the charge and discharge cycles. Now, your AGM and your gel cell are very sensitive to being overcharged. It is critical that your charger is put to the proper setting, or else you will destroy them. So you overcharge them, guess what? The gel or the AG or the fiberglass material boils away. And you continue to do this, eventually, guess what? You have lead plates that are exposed and there is no electrolyte, and you've destroyed those batteries. Same thing happens when you continuously undercharge them. You have sulfates that build up at the bottom of the plate, and guess what? You've also destroyed the batteries. Our flooded batteries are definitely more tolerant of us undercharging or overcharging them. And what happens is, to correct some of these issues, we maintain the buildup of sulfation, or the uneven charge of the cells. We can do what is called a desolvation cycle on our charges. You can only do this on a flooded battery. And what that is you're going to actually overcharge those batteries for about 4 or 5 hours. And when you overcharge them, the hope is that it will break up what the sediments you have at the bottom of the battery and circulate them around the battery. So basically, overcharging, kind of like you're boiling them. And during that period, your battery gases. Okay. You could smell it, you could hear the bubbling inside the battery, and that will help you correct the buildup of sediments at the bottom of the plates. The second part also is, since in Nigeria we have very challenging issues with NEPA, when your charger is going through its charge cycles, it gets interrupted a lot, and that definitely is not good for your gel cell battery. So this is one of the reasons why we prefer to use the flooded relative to the gel or the AGMs. Now, the current manufacturer will use Trojan for the low end to mid end batteries, has introduced a gel cell batteries, and they claim the technology is superior to anything else out there. Um, and I'm not going to dispute what Trojan says. However, if the market were here, I would highly recommend it. Nigeria, until we have a grid that's a little more stable, or until our customers recognize that a battery is not a disposable item, but something they need to get the maximum life out of, we'll stick to using the flooded batteries. For our high-end customers, we use the Hopikis. They're a little pricier. They're 2-volt batteries, but they do the job well. So the final question is, how do we connect batteries? How do we connect our batteries? Well, like I said, a battery is a storage device. So I want you to think of a battery the way you think of your petrol tank. Your petrol tank is a 20-gallon tank or 20-liter tank. 20 gallons and 20 liters are not the same, but I want to use a number just for the sake of illustration. So your petrol tank now is 20 liters or 20 gallons, and I have one. Now my battery, the inverter or the control system, actually they're not really inverters, they are converters, because what they do is they take they take DC current, which is what your battery stores, and they convert them to AC, which is what your house uses. I don't know why they call them inverters, but the correct term is a converter. So your converter your converter determines how we're going to wire your batteries. So you have two 6-volt batteries, and your system is a 12-volt system. We have to connect them in series to give us 12 volts. Okay, so you connect the plus to the minus, and then you have one plus and one minus, and that connects to your converter, and that gives you 24 volts. Now, that battery is 250 amp hours. When you connect it that way, it remains at 250 amp hours. Okay, so it's like, even though you think you're connecting two 20 liter tanks and you should get 40 liters, you're still getting your 20 liters. Now I add 2 more of those batteries and I do the same connection on the second one, but then now I add the plus of the second set of batteries to the plus of the first set, and I add the minus of the second set to the minus of the first set. I still have 12 volts, but now I have 500 amp hours. Okay, so now I've doubled my capacity. So now I truly have 40 liters because I've added 220 liters. Now I have 40 liters. It sounds a little complex, but that's the way it works. So final part about batteries. Sorry, we've gone a minute longer than we planned. Final part about batteries. What preference which batteries do we prefer? We like 2 volts first if our customers can afford it, and 6 volts. Simple reason. We like the thicker the lead plates, the better it is for our customers. Bigger lead plates do better charge and discharge. Thinner lead plates do not as good charge and discharge. So a single 2-volt battery that might be this big has a single cell, and it's a lot of lead plates, versus something this big and it's 12 volts and it has 6 cells in it. So hopefully this gives you a little bit more about charge controllers and batteries. Want to thank you again for watching. Again, it's Christopher Nwasanya with Atlantic Waste and Power in the US, or AWPS Renewable Energy in Nigeria. See you next week in Nigeria. Thank you for watching.